Nervous today. I want to thank the council for giving me the time and opportunity to sit here, or stand here today, and have the extra time. I think you'll find my presentation both of public interest and an important one given what's coming to council next time, and I think it is something that's going to have impact on the town of Goderich for generations. I came specifically on April 3rd because NRStor was expected to be here and we're going to be answering questions of the council. And since my placement on the agenda has been confirmed, I'd like everyone to know that NRStor withdrew their attendance for other reasons and will now be here another time. So they're actually not here to answer questions, despite my booking specifically to be here the day that they'll come. I would like it if all the questions for my presentation be delayed until the end. My presentation is lengthy, and there are lots of things I'll be talking about, and I'll probably answer many other things you will be asking as my presentation goes on. I'm going to also say that this has been very taxing for me, the process of collecting all the information. I've lost 11 pounds since January. I have lost countless nights of sleep. The matter that I bring to you weighs heavy on me, and I can't stress enough that you have listened to me, and I thank you for the time you've granted me. I also look forward to being done this so that others, if they feel appropriate, can carry the torch on this, because I can't keep doing this. My health on. Why do I do this? I do this because I believe this is the right thing to do. It is the right thing for the community, and the community needs to know, because NRStor is looking to start in May. That's a month from now. I will also go on record to say that I have been cautioned about doing my presentation, or in a small town there can be consequences that can come to me in various formats and evaluations. However, I'm following my moral compass, and I stand here before every single one of you just the same, and I just serve to reinforce my desire to come to talk tonight. I have two things that are floating around. One of them is a clipboard where I'm asking people to put their name down if they are in support of the presentation that I had. You may be in support of it after I present. But put your name down so that it can be entered with the mayor's allowance into the official minutes of the meeting. The second clipboard, I'm asking for people's emails, if they wish to, receive the information that has been provided to council in the supporting documents and the summary of my work for the last 3.5 months. I have briefed all the councillors on my talk. Not all of it was complete. I kept accumulating stuff, in fact, even right up to this week. And this issue came up, the conflict of interest. I was called a NIMBY. I didn't know what that was. I figured it out since it's not in my backyard kind of issue. And so I wanted to address that. This over here is where well 12 is, or well 10 is, the issue at hand. And this is the radius of the distance where I live. I'm about as far as Edward Fields. I'm about as far as Eronia, next to Columbus. I'm past the Boston Pizza. So in terms of not in my backyard issue, I hope that gives me further credibility as I stand here before you. I don't actually live near the well, but I do this because I think it is best for our community. And this is really what it's about. I have kids. A lot of what I know comes from kids' books. It turns out adults are no better and look different. And if you stick to what the kids tell us, we'll be fine. I do this because I care for my community, and I'm here for the long haul. Next time I'm moving, I'm in a box, and so this matters to me. And I also stand on my record as I present for advocating for what is right for the people and the institutions of our town. I have shown that through my work at the clinic and at the hospital and within my community. And I will ask the council the same. I will ask the same of you. And I hope that you can care as much as that. This all started about a year ago when NRStor presented at council. They asked for supporting principle for a demonstration project. There were very few details made available to council, and the supporting principle was given. Having talked to all the councillors, the impression they all had uniformly is that this was a small thing, mostly underground, This was a new cutting-edge technology. It was going to put us onto the map. Goderich was going to be on the cutting edge of good environment. So I will talk about that. But this proposal, this endorsement has led NRStor to search and seek and obtain, as the second point says in their presentation from November, we think the support of the town of Goderich and Goderich Hydro is absolutely necessary and goes a long way in showing the strength of the project for the grant application. NRStor recognizes the importance of the support that was obtained from this council on the information it provided, and without that, they would argue, they probably wouldn't be here proposing the project that they're proposing. The town council had allowed this to proceed with the information that they were given at the time. I don't think the town council actually knew that once this process gets going, the Green Energy Act that it falls under actually excludes the council for the most part. It excludes a lot of local players, and this is done purely provincially. So in terms of the council's involvement, this part, giving the support a year and a half ago with very little information provided, is pretty much it. The rest of it is fairly routine. This came to all the people on Mill Road. It's a letter to neighbors, and it's small, but I'm putting it up there for a reason. I actually lived so far I didn't get this letter. This letter was brought to me, and it essentially invites, in the end here, people to come to a community open house. At this meeting, we actually, for the first time, learned on Mill Road, and anybody from what I talked to, what is actually coming to town or what's being proposed. I will summarize it for those people that are in attendance. NRStor is looking to pump air into the caverns of Spacek wells that the Citgo or Columbus Minerals used to mine salt out. They're then going to release this, having the air spin turbines and generate electricity, releasing into the grid. This is very much like a hydroelectric dam that holds water and it releases the water slowly, spinning turbines, generating electricity. What is key in this is this part. The demonstration project in Goderich will provide significant opportunity to scale up this technology to large projects. They were talking about going big with this. They're scaling it up. This is very important, and I'll talk about that. At the meeting, beyond the general information and a lot of PR stuff, they actually showed us what it is that they're building, what are the dimensions. And I had gone on the internet, and I figured out because 225 by 170 doesn't really mean anything to me. But when I looked up the size of the football field, I realized that this building is actually wider than a football field, but it's not quite as long. And this is the demonstration project. So the concepts that got the council to give it approval were starting to be not supported by what NRStor was showing, because this, from all my talking to the councillors, is far larger than they had ever envisioned was going to come. The NRStor people also talked about at this meeting about scaling it up. If it works for 1/10 of the cavern, which is what the demonstration project is, they were looking to expand this to the entire cavern. And it makes sense. You bring in all this infrastructure, you expand into the whole thing. They did tell us that this building would increase tenfold. It would probably double or so, maybe become twice as high. They told us 20 feet initially, so 40 feet. And 2 football fields, 4, I don't know. But they needed to ramp it up. This is a slide that they gave us that shows the placement of that demonstration plant on the lot, which is Mill Road. You'll notice that it is surrounded by a neighbor here. And I found it suspicious that they actually measure from inside the building all the way to the house, yet there's a structure here. But I guess in the scheme of things, they're trying to portray that it's really far from things. You'll see their houses here, and the picture is so old that it actually fails to show the picture of the church where this very meeting was held. The Trinity Christian Church. It's been there for a few years now. As a result of this meeting, there was a letter submitted to Town Council in January which addressed stakeholder concerns. It was a 3-page document, and I'll get to it after. And it talked about the site location, the noise emissions, visual aesthetic issues. It talked about property value, current stability, energy storage. It talked about future of expansion, job creation, economic benefit, construction, well water effects, and moving forward. And this led to the very first article I ever saw on this, other than the coverage that was given to the open house, where the CAO of Goderich speaks kindly and well of this project. After all things seem to be dealt with and addressed by NRStor. He likes the idea of burning compressed air in caverns and so forth. The thing that is really important about this is actually highlights what are the steps going forward. The independent energy operator has to sign off on it. The Ministry of Environment has to sign off on it. And the government, then the Goderich Town Council. So being a green energy project, there are now 3 check marks that need to happen in order for this to go forward. And I learned all about this, and didn't know anything about it, but through the last 3 months of doing this, I learned about it. So the independent electric system operator is actually the people that put out this contract. This is what the NRStor people have applied for. And from what I understand from NRStor, they have now, in recent time, succeeded in signing that contract. They would not reveal the details of it to me. They wouldn't give me the official copy of it or the details of it. But at the meeting that we had in December at the open house, they talked about getting the electricity for free and then regenerating it back and selling it to the grid. I don't know what the details actually are, but that was the gist of their discussion. The Ministry of Environment is the other player. And the way this works actually is that Maitland Valley Conservation Authority is excluded from vetting this project. This is purely done provincially. So there is going to be, and in fact there has already been, an environmental assessment that NRStor themselves finance. They pay a firm to make them an environmental assessment. And this is then in Toronto or somewhere centrally vetted to see if it's suitable or not. And the Goderich Town Council has since realized that their role as councillors, I think, is really one of approving a site plan whereby if it's a commercial property, if it's an industrial property and it's an industrial plan, that's really the extent of it. I think the town councillors have since realized that they can't really shape this very much. They can't have too much of a say, if any, on what goes on these lots, as long as it satisfies the zoning, which currently it does. Okay. I would like to go back. I would like to go back to the letter that the town council received from NRStor. And I will start from the bottom. I would like to go over it because I'm not sure how much accountability we expect from people that send you documentation. Do we expect it to be truthful? Do we vet it? Do we trust them? So let's start here. NRStor, moving forward. They've decided to move forward with the project in collaboration with the municipality of Goderich and surrounding communities. There's ACW and there's Central Bureau. We're committed to working with our new neighbors and so forth and so forth. I have spoken with the region of ACW and the council with them. Nobody has ever reached out to them. No one's made a presentation. They have never endorsed anything. They have never worked in collaboration with that community. I have reached out to Mayor Ginn in Central Huron. In fact, it is Central Huron Road and infrastructure that's going to be used to access this property. They have never received a delegation, any communication, and they have never granted endorsement. They've been totally kept in the dark. They know of it through Goderich, but that's about it. I will talk about well water. But you're starting to see, I'll talk about well water later. Construction. Most of the components for the facility are prefabricated and will be placed on site, reducing the work. There'll be 30 to 50 days of on-site construction anticipated in spring of 2017. So they're actually looking to start building. And they're going to give us 30 days of employment. In 30 days, that's as little possibly as they're going to take to build this thing. because it's going to be all made elsewhere. It's all prefabricated stuff. Let's move up. I think this is really telling to go through their document and look for accountability in what they say, which is the name of my presentation. I'm seeking accountability. We believe this will bring numerous long-term economic benefits to the region. I fail personally to understand how an automated, remotely controlled building that provides no employment is going to create numerous long-term economic benefits to the region. I would love them to explain it to me. There are going to be millions of dollars that will be spent within and will flow to Goderich area. I think it's important to read that line again. There will be millions of dollars. But they're going to put millions of dollars into that building from elsewhere because it's all prefabricated and we're only going to have 30 days of construction time and employment for local people. What's going to happen here, though, and I don't know if anybody here appreciates this, if they make a $25 million structure there, because it's coming in under NPAC rules, and under Green Energy Act, the NPAC is capped. So the town of Goderich itself will not even be able to benefit from there being a multi-million-dollar facility on this structure. It's capped. Future expansion, currently there are no plans for future expansion. I think that's funny to say that because they told us at the meeting that they're expanding it to the whole cavern. In fact, their very letter introducing it to us talked about the huge potential of ramping this up. I think this statement is incredibly hollow. And when you start looking at all of this line by line, section by section, you're starting to see how their document starts losing credibility. And that is why I'm here, Mark, because this has to be addressed. This has to be made public. I will go to the next page because I think this is really interesting. Oops. Very tricky. I don't need that. I'm stressed enough. So here, it's like let's no seriously, I know I'm taking up your time, but I hope you see the importance of this. I cannot talk about the energy storage and electricity rates. This is their internal stuff. But and I can't quite verify this. The stuff I could verify on the other page is kind of hollow sounding to me right now. So I'm not sure how much credibility this takes because it's the same letter. Cavern stability, I can't comment on it, same kind of thing. Neighboring properties, I think this is another key one. There should be no significant effect on neighboring properties. I think that's a really interesting line. And when you see the size and scale of the possibility here, you will appreciate if you think that there is no effect on the neighboring property. The other interesting thing is the very top of the letter. NRStor and HydroStor engage the residents along the road to get input towards improving the aesthetics of the facility, and this will occur in the first half of 2017. I don't know, we're in April now, and nobody's reached out. There's no meeting yet. I think this is, again, another hollow statement. I will go to the first page, and I'm going to talk about the visual and aesthetics here and the noise emissions. And I'm going to talk about Golding and Associates later, so please take these two sections with a grain of salt. Site location. This is actually interesting as well. 3 paragraphs lamenting about how difficult it is to actually build anything on that site. There is erosion. There is all sorts of technical things that are preventing it, but they managed to find this one. And I think the icing on the cake with this entire document comes from the fact that even the date isn't accurate. The whole thing has flaws that nobody looked at, and I'm just here to show you, and I'm asking for accountability. I wish NRStor was here to defend it and speak to it, but I suspect there's a reason they're not. All right. I will get home so that, oh yes, another good one. So, I talked about them getting a contract from the independent energy operator. I talked about them getting their own environmental vetting, and then there's the Goderich Council approval. The way this works is a company gets their own environmental assessment. They hired a company called Goderich Associates. If you go on their website, they're actually a multinational company. They're a huge company. Their business, their industry is getting energy projects approved. They, as their website says, I should read this carefully, they have a passion to help their clients succeed. If you hire somebody to do something for you, there tends to be a product that satisfies your clients. This is the final copy that I was able to obtain and was given to me by NRStor. This is the location plan. I'm going to draw your attention to this for a number of reasons. This is where well 10 is, which is the issue that we're talking about. There should be a church here, unless there's a picture that's really old. And then there are some houses, and there's a house here. Notice none of them are labeled. Nonetheless, there is a structure. This is where it's going. 1, 2, 3 of the 4 sides have structures on it. This side is wood. This report has 8 pictures, 8 photos. It's a photographic log that is meant to show people what's it really like, not just text, but pictures. I will show you the pictures. This is the first batch. And I'd like you to point out one thing. This is the only corner where you see a structure. Every single picture here. And they're painstakingly labeled, every single one of them. Is not. The rest of them are not taken on the site where this is. And yet they're labeled exactly where they are on the site. You see a problem when you get your own environmental assessment. So, let's go back to the location plan. This is where the well is. You look at this and you start looking at it critically. Well, why would they crop it this way? Because there's a town of 8,000 on this side. Because there's a giant shopping mall on the other side. How much different would it be if they were trying to put it over here and show that there's a river here that has an endangered snake in it? If there's a giant town here and shopping mall and everything else, and an actual church that's not in any of the pictures. Let me go back and critique it some more. None of these, you see the labeling? Industrial, commercial, industrial, industrial, commercial. Why don't they label a church and highlight it like everything else? Why don't they label every single one of these as residential? Why don't they label the site that's nearest to it all as residential? Why don't they label that there's a Goderich Municipal Daycare right here? Why don't they label the rest of these as residential? There's a problem with what's being conveyed. And I'm calling it out. This report I presented to the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority with my concerns, and they were concerned. I spoke with the board chair, and I have met with the general manager. Despite my giving them these documents, and despite them trying for the last month to find a contact within the Ministry of Environment that I could get this to, they were unable to get me named. They can't find something. They have their own contacts within it. I was told this week, that despite them using their own contacts within the Ministry of Environment, they are unable to find a name where this can be forwarded to. There's a problem that the Minister of Environment has in the transparency that's used to vet these projects. I need to get my stuff to them. It matters. I went and I took pictures from the site. For those of you who don't know, there's actually a trail that runs along here, and that's also in jeopardy. But this is the one direction. This is east. This is south. This is west. And yes, on one side there's woods. Slightly different picture presentation for the people in Toronto standing off on the outside. So, that's the environmental assessment part. I went, so one of the other things that this NRStor told us at the open house was that there are 2 plans that exist in the world that run this technology. Despite them saying this is brand spanking new, cutting edge technology, there are 2 plans that exist, and they use them as examples for reference. One of them is in Hamburg, Germany. Cutting edge technology since 1978. If you look at this plan, and you see where this is located, you actually see how remote it is. This does not belong in an urban center. This does not belong on a bank or riverbank. If you see here, there's one well, two wells. This is a site that has been in existence since 1978 that has multiple wells used. When you fly to Toronto, you want to see what the layout is of the CN Tower, so I give you a close-up. Again, it shows you that there is a building that has a footprint, and this shows you the size of the accessory structures and everything goes with it. Despite this being in the middle of nowhere, the parking lots are empty, and that's because this is a fully automated structure. It will provide new employment, and it is also probably remotely generated, remotely controlled. You see the two wells? Multiple wells hooked up to the same site. You want to see how big it is, because you never really get the size of the CN Tower until you stand next to it. Well, this is the Plantinger. There's a tractor in the front, and like any good fisherman would tell you, you put it as far away in front of the camera as you can so that it looks as big as you can. And yet it's dwarfed by the facility that uses two wells and has been running for 40 years. Cutting-edge technology. This is the original picture from 1978. You see, they actually presented in Florida a few years ago about this technology. And they showed the original plans. It doesn't really change. Back then, there's still no cars. And the footprint is massive, even if you just look at the footprint of the building. And then the accessory structures that go with it. This report that they presented in Florida in the early 2000s also speaks about the utility of this plant. How, when they started in the 1970s, and they were using it 200 to 300 times a year. It contributed to the grid almost once a day. But in the 1980s and the mid-80s, there was a huge drop in the utility of this, and it's become marginalized in Germany. They now, or the data after that, show that it's used 2 to 3 times a month. So they, in their text, actually talk about this technology being marginalized because there's integration within the grid, and other technologies that are far better are coming on board, such as hydroelectric dams. They specifically talked about other energies being better uses of electricity to the grid, a better contributor. So here we are bringing to Goderich a plant that's massive, provides no employment, uses multiple wells, and it's 40 years old, and in Germany, the company that runs it is called E.ON, and their use for it is 2 to 3 times a month. E.ON is a giant company that actually spans many countries in Europe. I have roots there, so I know quite a bit about it. And despite that, since 1978, this has never been brought to any other site across all of Europe. It has never been expanded. In fact, its use has been marginalized. And the data in this report shows it, and I'm happy to share that data and the report with anybody else. So I went to the other place that exists in the world that uses this technology, McIntosh, Alabama. I drew the arrow there because it's kind of hard to see where this is, but the truth is it's in the middle of the woods. There are no trails, there are no footpaths, there are no sidewalks anywhere. I don't have to tell you how remote this is, but it doesn't look anything like the picture I showed of Goderich map, where they want to put the plant here in Goderich. This is what it looks like. In case you want to see what it looks like from a plane. It's massive. The infrastructure that goes with the main plant and everything else, and lack of cars, speaks to the things I've already spoken about. 1992. That's the new cutting-edge technology we're looking to bring to Goderich. This is a close-up, because they actually have some promotional stuff. And again, size huge, no employment, no people. This is the inside. This is the energy generating part of it all. You see, they have giant turbines spinning. No people, but the size of this is huge, and they're generating electricity. So I try to see, they're trying to go to well 10, which is here. I found this map. This is actually publicly available data. There is a database of all the wells, salt, gas, oil. These are all the wells on this side of Goderich. So this is well 10. They're looking to start with 1210, 1/10 of it. They're going to then ramp it up, they said, to size 10. When in their initial letter, they talk about the huge potential to ramp it up in Goderich, well, that's because there are 12 wells on the side of Goderich, and these are the only 3 active ones. Everything else is not. So, when NRStor is coming here and in their letter, they tell you that they have no plans to expand, when in their initial letter they say how there's a huge potential to blow this up and make it huge, well, this is what they're thinking about. This is the scope of the project. And now you can appreciate how, when you look at these plants and their size of them, how we are at risk of actually starting a seed that's going to grow here and consume all of these things. The German plant showed you can tap into multiple wells. Why not here? Another interesting thing that came up when I was searching through this is that I don't think NRStor actually knows, and certainly their environmental assessment makes no mention of, the fact that there's an endangered snake that lives in this river right on the bank. The environmental assessment makes no mention of it. I think it needs to be brought up to the Ministry of Environment, but I can't get it to them, and I need the town council's help in reaching it. So it brings me back to this. And I'm going to choose my words carefully here. And I'm going to stress their importance. There are inherent risks with energy plants. And the existing plants of this nature appropriately place them in remote areas. They're massive, and they have no business being in an urban center such as Goderich, on the riverbank bluff that's prone to erosion and suffers from all sorts of troubles already with an endangered species of snake. This is an energy generating project, and it doesn't belong in an urban center on the freshwater riverbank. Which brings me to one of the slides I started with. This town council, having been given very little information by NRStor on purpose, or maybe that's all that was available at the time, in their goodwill gave support to this project. I come here before you with all things considered, all things I've presented, to ask you to rescind that support that was given to this project. I don't know if the council can be on the side of this project at this time. It's something you may wish to reintroduce yourself as, but I think at this point, with all that is known, and recognizing the incredible need for them to have you to show the strength of it, how absolutely necessary it is, I think the town council needs to reconsider the support it has lent to this project. Most councillors, when I spoke to them, felt deceived by NRStor when I was showing them the data and the information and the picture. It's easy for me to see how they would feel deceived, because when they were told that this was a small, cutting-edge technology that's going to put Goderich on the map, that had hardly anything on the ground, they never imagined what actually was coming, and what NRStor could expand. So, I'm going to show you the silver bullet that's going to kill this beast if the town council wishes. If the town council chooses to, this is a key piece of information. NRStor has many different technologies. NRStor recognizes their CAES technology as an energy generating technology. They, in fact, in their graphic, compare themselves and put themselves shoulder to shoulder with a nuclear power plant. Nuclear power is as good as you can get to energy generation. CAES is an energy generating project. For those of you who follow the news, the Ministry of Energy has canceled all energy generating projects in Ontario because we have an abundance, he said, instead of electricity. He canceled $3.8 billion in contracts, and yet here we are in this council room being presented about a project that shouldn't even be in front of council. And so I give an opportunity and I give information to council, should they wish to carry with this information further and advocate what they feel is best for the town. Because I think the Minister of Energy needs to explain why is there an energy generating project that's not through and has been allowed to continue. Because NRStor clearly sees this as an energy generating project. They see it themselves, they classify it so themselves, and they liken themselves to nuclear power plants. Which is this. Here. So, this is the money slide that will empower the council to do things if they wish. NRStor recognizes and in its own documents classifies CAES technology as energy generated. September 2016, the Ontario Energy Minister cancelled all energy generating projects submitted under the Green Energy Plan. The current demonstration project should not even be in front of this town council. It should not be considered for this town. I'm going to go back to this. I really fail to see how this town council can support this project and be on record as supporting it. The public and I need the councillors and the staff to fight fiercely against the NRStor project. It has risks and scope that the town will not be able to control and contain. I'm confident if the town council will direct its staff and will fight as fiercely as I do and fight as hard as I do, that the Goderich people will be almost finished. Yeah. This is where I put on my old shirt. I haven't worn this regularly enough for a few years.
So that's pretty good though.
That's my last 11 times, that's why. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to blow the whistle on this project. I'm asking for accountability. It is essential that the town council act in the best interest of the people they represent. It is equally essential that the staff, in the town hall, passionately carry out the will of the town. And the people on all issues, including the NRStor. It cannot be the other way. The staff cannot be driving the agenda. The council needs to lead, and the town council needs to hear the voices of the people. Shrugging one's shoulders and saying, well, it's not within my authority, it's a provincial issue, is not good enough. I think it's a cop-out, because we are in part here because of some of the decisions and choices that this council has taken in the past. And I'm certain that if you act passionately and you care a whole awful lot, it's going to get better. I have brought to council 5 things to consider, and I'm going to distribute them. If you don't know. I don't know this works. And I'm going to distribute them here as well. One, I seek from the town council a motion to rescind the support of plans to this project in its infancy. This is the kind of project the town and town council need to be fighting against. I do not see how the town council can be supportive of this. 2, when NRStor is recalled in front of council as they were supposed to be here today to answer questions, NRStor, when they return here to answer questions, I would like to be allowed to as well ask them questions. And I would very much feel that it is essential that these questions need not be submitted ahead of time as it's right now required. People need to be asked questions and not be given them ahead of time so they can prepare. If they can't answer the questions because they don't have the materials, then they come back another time when they have those materials. NRStor needs to earn their ticket. They can't be given it. Point 3, there are significant issues with environmental vetting of this project. The Minister of Environment needs to make it clear and publicly know where within the ministry I should send in concerns about this project. Currently, there appears to be no such place, and I have shown you significant issues with the assessment done thus far that I think we need to see from the Minister of Environment where to submit the information. Point number 4. The Minister of Energy needs to be made aware of issues of the procurement of this contract. He also needs to be informed that this one got away. This is an energy-generating project that has been allowed to advance despite his pledge in September to cancel all energy-generating projects. I think this town council needs to bring it to the Minister's attention and ask to see what he meant by his words in September. And finally, number 5. And again, I would like the town council to consider acting on this. The Compass Mineral honor the general pledge of the natural resource companies, and having apparently harvested the natural resources that are underground, that they commit to and return these riverbank lots to the community while allowing reforestation and restoration of this portion of the Nathan River. And that is my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Spacek. You mentioned our